Here, kids, here, have some missiles.
You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here in Nof, Idaho, in an actual free state. I am this guy. I am your conservative Sherpa, and that means that I am attempting to guide you through the terribly insidious maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, bedlam, deceit, chaos, tyranny, and betrayal, and all that kind of stuff right there, or words to that effect, Senator. Tonight I got a great guest. By the way, it is June the 18th, the year of our Lord 2026. I am the aforementioned fat guy, BZ, one each. Please know what you're about to hear for the next 2 hours consists of my opinions and my opinions only, parenthesis, and perhaps those of my guest. Yes, I do have a guest tonight. So, I am doing the job that the American media maggots won't. I am fundamentally changing America one leftist diaper at a time. We do not water our drinks. Just like we don't water our conversations. We are still serving stiff drinks right here in the saloon, along with facts and history and logic and clarity and rationality and proportion and context and tradition and common sense for normal people like you and me. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the saloon. The speech is free, but the booze, she is not. I'm streaming live on a whole host of various places that are kind of sort of similar to this, like X and YouTube and Apple Podcasts, Rumble, and KLRN Radio. And remember, I always tell everybody at the beginning of the show, because Rick is so kind. Hey kids, don't tax the Rick. Please don't tax the Rick. I thank you very much for your cooperation. And with that, okay, my goal, which I have not yet reached, because of the very kind and considerate people at KLRN, is to eventually have as many people from KLRN on the show, because I'm a big believer in cross promotion. If I'm on your show or you're on my show, and if I somehow can't cross pollinate and help us, help me, help you, help all of us, then what the hell, man? So eventually, I want to get everybody from KLRN on here. I've had about 4 or 5 people on here. And the newest gentleman, GENE Berardelli, is the brand newest of the brand new people. And let's put GENE on stage, if we could, please.
Listen, I agree with your rising tide lifts all boats position. I disagree with your don't tax the Rick position.
Oh, so, okay. All right.
Already we have disagreement on the show. There's going to be discord and acrimony.
I know it'll be horrible. There'll be hate, discontent. There'll be squirrels flying out of trees. Okay, that's a weird story that I just entered my brainulus. So there I was in 1993, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And I was bound and set to get the hell out of Sacramento, California, because I hated Sacramento, even though that's where I worked. And I figured, okay, I'm going to go up Interstate 80 until I can afford a house. Well, it turned out that at that time in 1993, when I could afford a house, it was at the 4,000-foot level, far, far, far away from Sacramento. So I bought the house. But the weird thing is, the first thing I saw when I went looking for homes is a squirrel. And the squirrel went up the tree. And the squirrel fell out of the tree and onto the ground. And I thought, I'm not sure that's such a good omen for coming up here. But in the meantime, since being up there, because I was up at the 4,000-foot elevation in the Sierra Nevada mountains for 28 years. Great house, great area, and then the wildfires started scaring the hair out of me. That's just, okay, kids, stream of consciousness tonight. Yeah, okay. Yes, Gene, why do you think I wear a hat? And the answer,
listen, I own the baldness, man. That is me. I've embraced it. And when you embrace things like that, no one can come at you with it. So,
well, I guess I must be temperamental. In any event, we've got Gene here tonight. First time, and I'm ever so pleased and happy to have him. There's a whole bunch of places we're going to potentially go. As I state at the beginning of most every show, hey, look, BZ, over here on the right, I've got all these tabs up here. Each one is a story or a video. It looks like a cast of thousands, knowing full well that I will never get to but a fraction of them. That's how we roll here in the Saloon. But with Gene here, I have to admit, I'm a neophyte in terms of understanding who Gene is, who Gene was. I've seen I have to admit, guilty. The only portions of your show that I've seen are those that were played through Rick Robinson. I know that's egregious. I know I deserve to be slapped, perhaps whipped. I hope, please, folks, I hope you don't have to go that far. But because I don't know that much about you, the stuff that I saw from Rick was great and outstanding. And then I decided, okay, BZ, because that's my name, do a little bit deeper digging and find out who this guy is. And so I was smacked, then I had a gob, then I was gobsmacked, and then I finally understood who Gene is. So let me put this up if you want to find out some things about Gene. He's on LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn, kids, is for business, essentially business professionals. And so in the process of doing an internet scraper-reely of this, Gene, Mastic Beach, New York, U.S., contact info, law offices of Quinnipiac University School of Law. And that's when I said, oh, okay. Well, you're not dealing with your Mark 1 Model 1 guy that doesn't know what the hell is going on in the world, because you have to be kind of more than a day student to graduate from all that stuff. I went to, I had a couple of law classes, and I realized right then, I'm not that mot to go to law school. So I did the smart thing and didn't. So tonight, at the beginning of the show, I know we're going to get into some tempestuous stuff here tonight, kids. I hope you're sitting down in your seat with whatever your favorite imbibement is, and you're kind of squirming your butt against the seat like a guilty guy in an interrogation. I happen to know about that. And so, Gene, if you would please, before we get into the meatly thrust of the matter, tell us a little bit about who you are, if you would. Like, I get that you're living in New York State right now.
Yes, I'm in the People's Republic of New York, but
Okay.
I happen to be in one of the Republican enclaves out on Long Island, not in Long Island, on Long Island.
Okay.
And you mentioned I'm an attorney, so automatically I'm behind the 8 ball with the entire audience. I do practice in civil litigation, basically whatever you want to sue for that hasn't anything to do with crimes. I'm your man. I also have handled election matters in New York, representing Republicans and Democrats, sometimes even some of the good ones, in different measures to either get on the ballot or to recount votes and things like that. I was once upon a time the law chairman for the Republican Party in Brooklyn, New York. Now, before you ask, yes, there were Republicans in Brooklyn. There's over 100,000 of them strong. The problem is there's another million or so Democrats that are there. So I fought the good fight there for a while. And after I left that position, actually, while I was at that position, I discovered podcasting and had a few shows over the years. One for the Brooklyn Republican Party that was pretty successful. Then went out on my own with my best friend Ross Galloway, and we've been doing Behind Enemy Lines for about 10 years now on various different platforms and different radio stations as well. And now I have a YouTube channel called Buffoon of the Week, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week on various live streams and video on demand formats. So I try my best to keep my finger on the pulse of politics, but I take it from an angle of mockery, pointing and laughing at stupid people all the time, no matter what their party is. And that turned into a best-selling, number one selling Amazon book called Schnooks, Crooks, Lies, and Scoundrels. And oh, look at that.
Hey,
I
look.
don't even have to put it up on the screen myself. Look at that.
Hey, look, kids. There it is. There's his book, because I said that he's an author. That's another thing that I hadn't known about you at all, is that you are a published author. Now, since you brought that up and you opened that door, BZ will frequently walk through open doors. Now, you wrote this, if I'm not mistaken, in 2022.
Yep.
So 4 years ago, this gets published. A lot of these people that you're looking over there on the graphic on the screen, if you're in portrait, it's above. If you're in landscape, it's over on the right. Over on the right, get it? And so my question to you would be, yeah, these people are pretty, okay, maybe not always easy to make fun of, but mostly easy to make fun of. And sadly, both parts of the aisle. But it's 2026, and we're talking to GENE Berardelli, a great guy that I've never had on the show before, and I want to have everybody learn a little bit about him. But if you were to write this book again, and or I don't know, your dreams and wishes, if you would consider writing a sequel or something like that, but 2026 as opposed to 2022, what would you add, subtract, or is it a completely disparate book? It's like, God, I wish I'd put this in or that in or any of those other things. How would you have changed the book?
So, for those who don't know about what the book really is, it says on it that it's a field guide for identifying buffoons. So what I tried to do was come up with different traits that politicians have that are the chapters within the book. And within the book, there are different examples of those types of buffoons in the wild, so to speak. So I would just update the examples in the book of who would be considered, the narcissist, who would be considered the BS buffoon. So, it would all depend on the actions of those people. I see comments in the chat array saying that I've got so many people on the covers. Yeah, you could put anybody on the cover right now. Hunter Biden would take the place of Andrew Cuomo probably, because he's probably the most radioactive one of the bunch there. Cory Booker probably gets to stay there. Maxine Waters probably gets to stay there. Tim Walz would probably have his own chapter. So it was captured. So what I like about the book is that I tried to make it as timeless as possible. So there are examples from history about politicians acting stupidly. If you go through some of the historical examples, you'll find out about a politician from, I believe it was North Carolina, that upon finding his cousin in bed with his wife, plotted to cut off his, well, you fill in the blank, and actually did.
Oh, really?
Be more his two berries than anything else.
Oh.
There's a discussion in the book about a couple of hotheads in an election in Fairfax, who him and the two sides and their supporters got into a brawl where someone was actually murdered outside a polling place. So when you talk about, acrimony at the polls, it's kind of always been that way, just in varying degrees. Point being that I try to make it as timeless as possible, so that it applies for everyday use and every year use, so that you too can identify a political buffoon out in the wild before they get elected into office.
I used to say that Maxine Waters had a mouth not so terribly dissimilar from the F7, the Navy F7 Intruder, or Crusader. And if you've ever seen the intake of a Navy F7 Crusader, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, you said Gene, our Lord and Savior, that
inside joke, folks.
I know that's it. You had to be here, folks, before the before show. When there's a show before the show,
it was crazy. He asked me my pronouns, and I actually said Lord and Savior, and I got one.
And that's two of them right there, so that works. In any event, you said you were on the radio, and when was that? And that was somewhere on the East Coast, I'm guessing, at some point.
So that was back in 2014, 2015, I believe. A couple of low-powered radio stations. One was in New Jersey. Shout out to Rick Trader and Conservative Commandos who set that up for me. And then later on, it was a couple of radio stations down in Valdosta, Georgia, and Carrollton area, where I would have some airtime there as well. Yep. And in the comments, Rick Robbins talking about WNJC. Shout out to them. Shout out to everybody involved with the stations down in Valdosta and all over there. Yeah, so the show that I do now on YouTube was a 1-hour radio show back in the day, once upon a time, that was syndicated across 3 or 4 different networks at the time. So I got to call myself a syndicated radio host and basically fake it till I made it. And it was a lot of fun to do. It was a lot of work to do, but it was definitely enjoyable.
And I bring that up because a long time ago, and for me, I do mean a long time ago, I worked for the 50,000 watt flamethrower. I was in radio in Sacramento and Ohio, started in Ohio in college. And then when I moved back here, we were a military family and Dad kind of moved all over the place. We lived at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and a bunch of other places. We came back here and I ended up working for KFBK. Met Morton Downey Jr., just missed Rush Limbaugh, KFBK, KNDE, KOBO, blah, 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 until I decided that I wanted to get a real job, because unless you were a member of IBEW, and I was not one of the favored persons for signing up with the union, you weren't going to go anywhere. So I decided I was going to get into law enforcement, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I too love radio. I'm a radio ham. And then when I retired in 2016, I thought, God, I'm going to have to find some ways and means of making sure that I stay off heroin. So I went back to not terrestrial radio. Nobody wants to hire an ugly fat fuck like me. But I started working at SHR Media, got my own little show in 2017, and the rest is absolutely 100% spotless, underwhelming. And here I am. So anyway, Gene, thanks for being here. Let me go a little bit further because I tried to, Jesus, in the process of assemblage of this show, I thought, okay, well, usually what I do is I'll find something, some kind of a graphic that tells a little bit of history about the person that we're speaking of. And this is the best that I could do, which, by the way, kids, is terrible. So I'm not going to leave that up. That's pretty reprehensible. But then,
and that's why I love the radio, because you couldn't do that on the radio.
That's right. I have a face made for radio.
Plus one, friend. Plus one.
Yes. And now this is the podcast that you do, and it's Behind Enemy Lines. And if you would explain, Lucy, a little bit about what this is, how you got to do this, and the gentleman that you're working with.
Oh, absolutely. So Behind Enemy Lines started right around 2011 or so, probably around 2012. Maybe even a little after that, because originally it was called Brooklyn GOP Radio, and it was coming from the Republican Party in Brooklyn, New York, and it was used as a recruiting tool to get volunteers to come to our clubhouse and to show up there, and we get pizza from the pizzeria next door, and an hour before the show we do the phone banking that we would do for our candidates, and then we do the show, and then we end up at a tavern of our choice, and we'd all hang out. It built a lot of camaraderie. It also built up a volunteer base of about 100 people that would then work on various campaigns, including the campaign. If you guys remember, after Anthony Weiner resigned from Congress, a Republican won his seat named Bob Turner. We supplied 100 volunteers for that race and contributed as best we could for that. And so after that, we decided, well, we like this radio thing. We kind of created something out of nothing. Let's see if we can take it ourselves. And Behind Enemy Lines was born. And the name of the show comes from not only being a couple of Republicans at the time living in the People's Republic of New York City, being behind enemy lines, but it was also a tribute to the military service of my co-host, Ross Galloway, who recently just retired from the National Guard as a sergeant major.
Well, God bless him for his service.
Absolutely. He went over to Iraq in the first, I think it was the first, it was one of the Gulf conflicts. It was in Iraq, earned a combat action badge there, and really became an inspiration for bringing over a military style of leadership into campaigning for me, and did a great job of organizing volunteers, putting them together to the point where at one point, while we were part of the Brooklyn Republican Party, we had 2 members of Congress, a couple of members of the Assembly, 2 state senators.
Whoa.
We had more Republicans in office in Brooklyn than any time prior to like 1970s. So it was like 50 years in the making, 40 years in the making at the time, that we were doing things really well. And then that sort of all fell apart when people started seeing that we were actually doing things and wanted a piece of the action. But that's a whole other story. But ever since then, we've been doing on and off Behind Enemy Lines radio, and it's now on the YouTubes and the Rumbles, and sometimes on the X's and the Twitters. So that's what it's all about.
Let me see if I get this correct, because I'm looking down here. Here's the podcast Behind Enemy Lines, and it says, correct me if I'm wrong, the channel is, however, Buffoon of the Week.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so if you want to find Gene and Ross on YouTube, go to Buffoon of the Week and subscribe. They already have over 3,000 subscribers. And I'm going to play this just for a second so folks get a bit of flavor. Gee, I wish I had graphics like that, said the Techno-Luddite.
I can certainly help you with that. And you are now Behind Enemy Lines, baby. How you doing out there? More on number 2 and more on number 1 here with you this week. What's up, Ross? What's going on, man?
Well, anyway, that's Ross. That's Gene. That's Behind Enemy Lines on the YouTube channel, Buffoon of the Week. And so since we hit that, it's very important to make sure that, okay, when can people find you and where? Okay,
so Behind Enemy Lines broadcasts every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, Rumble, and X, and we'll be expanding that to other places hopefully very soon. And I've been kind of a slacker lately in doing on-demand videos, but I plan on doing some on-demand videos that will come out on Mondays, and then we'll do a clip show of the live stream from Wednesday, either on a Thursday or Friday, and there'll be some short videos sprinkled in there in between sometime. I'm kind of revamping the schedule, but we're guaranteed to be around Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, on Rumble, and on X.
Okay, so when you do that, it was suggested to me a long time ago, back in 2017, when I was going to SHR, because I'd been off the radio for literally decades. And life interrupted my radio stuff, damn it, Jim. But I went back, had a ton of fun, and realized, I was told, do a podcast first. Don't go live. All I did was go live. That's all I knew, is going live. So when you guys are on Wednesdays, are you guys, you're an edited show, or you are live and direct?
Oh, we are live, uncensored, unfiltered. We encourage troll stomping while we're doing the show in the chat. We'll stop sometimes to poke fun at people. So Yeah, we are kind of, like I said, uncensored, unfiltered. Couple of Brooklyn Italians sitting on the virtual stoop, BSing about a whole bunch of. I'm not going to try to curse unless you let me, but
Oh, listen, we are a totally unexpurgated show.
all right. So
once I expurgated, then I unexpurgated.
That's awesome. So we're basically just a couple of Brooklyn Italians spewing the bullshit on the front stoop, talking about whatever comes to mind. We try to have a theme for a show. We try to present everything as best we can. We love our audience participation, and we will highlight chats. Even if you're not paid for, we don't care about super chats or anything like that. You jump in the comments. If it tickles our fancy, we'll talk about it. We won't talk about it. And that's pretty much it. You know, unfortunately, I subject people like you do to this mug right here. And I'll just say I give it as good as I can take it from people. You can read into that whatever you want to, internet.
Yes.
And we love talking about the news of the day, analyzing things. We try to take a different angle than what other people do. I try to not just talk about the news, but analyze mannerisms, observe the way that people deliver information rather than just the information that's being delivered, to sort of divine out and glean whatever we can about the person and their motivations about what they're saying. We just did a show about J.D. Vance and his round of media touring with his book, and whether or not that should be considered the opening move for 2028. We had a great discussion about that with our chatters as well. And, the chat is always an awesome way to bounce ideas off of everyone, just like it is in this crowd. I'm watching the chat right now, moving very well, and I'm glad that you guys are all here. I'll do my best to interact with you guys as well while we're talking. So let her rip. And I gotta say, BZ, people gotta be bored out of their mind learning about me. Let's get to some stuff, man.
Oh, we are going to get into some stuff.
All right.
We're pushing the bottom of the hour break. That's usually about 2 or 3 minutes or so.
Okay.
But I want to ask you this before we break.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come to be a conservative? Was there, some kind of a bing, look, I see the halo, or did you come around to it, or, did anything in particular get to you one day? I can tell you what mine is later on, but
sure.
Did somehow you just go, yeah, that's what I am?
So there was no light bulb moment. It was, I grew up in a family where my father, God bless him, was always the best he can, but he was always a self-starter. He was always an entrepreneur that had to, basically out of necessity, because he was a Marine. He was a high school dropout, so he had to kind of make his own way in the world. And in doing so, showed me the virtues of taking your own life in your own hands, taking on personal responsibility, and just dealing with life. And going through the public school system in the People's Republic of New York City, I sort of saw people living that opposite way and not exactly doing well for themselves. Then I get to college. I went to Manhattan College, now called Manhattan University. It was a Christian Brothers school, and I certainly saw, at least from my own life experience, a lot of people doing things the wrong way. I wanted to live my life the right way. And even then, I had professors who were very, very liberal, who gave me the freedom to actually explore my own political awakening. I interned with a Kennedy in Congress in my freshman year. So I was able to constructively engage with people at their levels and understand the lessons they wanted to impart to me. And it was more about how, not what to think, but how to think. And that's sort of what a liberal education was back in the day. And from there, while my views were always challenged and I learned that I had to back up what I thought, it was never indoctrinated into me at Manhattan College that I should think a certain way, even though there were many people that thought that certain way. And I will always be grateful. I always shout out a professor by the name of Winsome Downey, who is as liberal as the day is long, but gave me the freedom in the years that I studied under her to explore my own personal opinions and be able to have the tools to be able to present arguments, present a foundation for them, and to be able to be loud and right and loud and wrong at the same time, but at least be able to formulate the argument going forward.
See, 2 words come to mind right now. Debate team. Yes?
No, never.
No?
Nope. No.
Wow. And giving you the ability to be a critical thinker, that's astounding. Absolutely amazing, folks.
Listen, BZ, there was no debate team because I was always right.
Wait a minute. Okay, this is the first of the night. Thank you. And that means that we'll be right back after this. Hey, folks, now is the time. Take advantage.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Listen in to the Reaver of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a show equipped for bombast. Tune in Mondays and Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, and 6 p.m. Pacific, featuring a refreshing dose of reality. Jersey Joe fearlessly tackles the tough topics with no nonsense. Just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com, where you can hear the Reaver of Common Sense in action. He may not always be polite. He may not always be refined. But one thing's for sure. He always tells it like it is.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing. They're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com. 7armors.com. Faithful, vigilant, steadfast, passion.
Are you looking for bold, honest conversation about the issues shaping America? Well, let me welcome you to Unleashed 101 with Jeremy Hansen, where we take you beyond the headlines. We dive into politics and culture, the struggles of everyday life. It's raw, real, and unfiltered. If you're ready for truth with a punch, pull up a chair and join us. That's right, Unleashed 101, where real talk feels like home. Find us at unleashed101.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and more. We look forward to seeing you. Unleashed 101 with Jeremy Hansen.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. I'm BZ, and tonight we have GENE Berardelli with us from Buffoon of the Week, Enemy of the State, Enemy of the Lines, Behind Enemy Lines, lines that we had before we were lines, not lines of any drugs, just lines that are associated with enemies. So welcome back. Our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room awaits you and only you. If you go to the SHR Media YouTube channel, go right into El Chataribo room, that's Spanish for chat room. Enter there. We love good chatation here on the show. It is June the 8th. Oh my God, June the 18th, 2026. It's astounding.
I am really a good writer. My God.
You are.
Oh, damn. Okay, hi.
Here's the sad thing. had I known, see, when I love to have authors on the show. And before I get them on the show, I read their book. If I'd known you
don't
written
listen.
a book,
it ain't worth it, man. Trust me. But I will send you a signed copy for you, and a signed copy if you want to give it away to somebody in the audience. If they don't want it signed, it probably has more value. But I'll definitely do that if you want to give it out to somebody.
Okay.
And ebook. I can also send it as an ebook to anybody if anybody wants to get a free copy as well. But you got to be in the chat and you got to let BZ know.
That's right, and that deserves the second one for the night. BZ has conventions. Part of the convention of the show is when somebody happens to make a salient point, well, the bell emerges, and this bell has not been faring all that well because it's been struck for 9 years now, and it's starting to wear out.
Are there cosplays at these conventions, or
there could be? That's another story. So there I was up in the mountains, and
Sicily, 1937.
That's right, exactly. Although I never served in the military, I just served 41.5 years in law enforcement. There's a story as to why I wasn't in the military.
Yeah, my grandfather used to tell me that he served the equivalent of double murder in being married. So I guess we can all count
that all equates and flushes out in the end.
He told me on his 50th wedding anniversary he could have committed double murder and probably would have been an easier time.
And we'll put you under the prison. In any event, Gene is here. I'm here. You're here. I'm glad you're here. Have a beer with fear. But I wanted to make sure that I address this tonight. Now, before we get to the major catastrophe, let me turn this off so everybody can see. There we go. This was weird. I thought this was really weird. Now, of course, there are two ways that you can take this. One is, hey, this could be pretty cool. The other one was like me going 210 over 190 when I first saw that. And dude jumped onto Twitter or X. I call it Twitter. I don't know why. And I went, tabbity, tab. Just perpetual outrage. And I made what I thought were some really good darn points. We'll get to that because that's the point of the show. I want to, before we do that, there are a couple of interesting news stories that emerged recently because you're not that terribly far from this, which is, okay, look, hey, another Democrat socialist wins a primary in shock of shocks in D.C. because the Bowser Wowser got termed out. So the number 2 dude, Kenyon McDuffie, he apparently conceded. And this individual named Janice Lewis George won the Democrat primary. And so, Gene Berardelli, are you shocked, appalled? Were you gobsmacked yourself, sir?
Oh, so shocked. This is my shocked face. Can you see how shocked I am?
Wait a minute. Let me take this off so that I can show that shocked face.
Right here.
Wait a minute. Don't I have a producer? I should have a producer. Where is it? How come okay, here we go. Right? Thank God. Okay. Anyway,
yeah, if people don't know that the DC area has been, is, and always will be one giant blue monument to itself, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, this is the city that elected Marion Barry after he was convicted and shown on video smoking crack.
Yeah, no problem.
So, come on. It's like saying the sky is blue and being shocked.
And the sea is green, and we're all in our yellow submarine. Then there's a second story that I wanted to put up, which, for me, this goes two directions, bidirectional. Wow, don't say that, BZ. Like that, the house of irony, which is dripping. And of course, the house of Schadenfreude. The Southern Poverty Law Center is the biggest hate organization in the United Snakes of America. So The irony of it all, the dripping, foaming irony is such that a top at like the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, top men, a top Southern Poverty Law Center, that name just drips. I feel so bad for those people. Is accused of helping funnel, sit down, kids, $1.2 million in donor money to an informant in the National Alliance white supremacist group who was her lover.
Well, but BZ, you're burying the lead. Did you see what her title was at the SPLC? She was a director of the, get this, intelligence project.
Yeah, right. Good point. Because she was so sufficiently intelligent as to make sure, is this the time, kids, for me to come out with white cock jokes? Probably not. Probably a very poor time to do that. But the irony of that just made me want to sit down and think, what are these people thinking? Gene, tell me that you believe that this isn't true, that because of the lack of massive white supremacy, the SPLC had to go out undercover and fund white supremacy so that they could complain and do things and fundraise behind the white supremacy that they paid to create. Or am I just way off?
Well, that seems to be what the superseding indictment from the DOJ says about the SPLC, and how between 2015 and 2021, hundreds of thousands of dollars in charitable donor funds flowed through from the SPLC to different accounts for dummy companies that then made it into the hands of people who were doing some pretty bad things on their own, but really not getting a lot of traction. And some of that money would go for cross-burning materials or for other elements of hate, proliferation of hate, and basically perpetuated their own job. And honestly, this feels like the type of flim-flam that you would see in the movies, where the guy with the traveling cart of medication would show up to cure what ails you and ends up causing an epidemic in the area. So yeah, it's hucksters, it's charlatans, allegedly. And amazingly, the thing that killed me the most was there were people allegedly, according to the superseding indictment, contacting the SPLC who were part of hate organizations saying, hey, can you get me out of these things, please? I need help. And they said, nah, man, stay in the organization. We'll keep giving you money. You just funnel us information. And some of these people will commit criminal acts, allegedly, break into places, take documents, photocopy them, put them back, allegedly, according to I almost said the super secret indictment. It was the superseding indictment. And basically, the SPLC would perpetuate their own donations over and over again. They would basically fleece their donors by being part of the problem.
Wow. Okay.
Super secret indictment. That's what I got right there.
I love that. If I can steal that, if that's eminently stealable, I may attempt to do that. Here's another story out of what I consider to be Captain Obvious. New poll: majority of Americans want every illegal immigrant deported. Shocked and appalled, surprised, etc. Probably not. Gene.
I mean, again, man, dog bites man.
Yeah.
Water remains wet. Sky continually blue.
Right.
But I mean, listen, I think that when it comes to polls, I just want to give the audience a tip. Never take them at face value. Look at the organization doing the polling. Look at the sample size. Look at the political distribution of the people that are being asked questions. Look at the questions themselves. Any poll will give you what they call crosstabs. They'll tell you the questions that are being asked, the phrasing that is being used, break down all the data based upon different demographics. Credible polls will not give you the information that you want to hear, but will give you the information that's out there. I think about generic polls when it comes to elections. Well, the generic Democrat is polling at this, and the generic Republican is polling at that, and that you might as well just wipe your ass with, because there's no such thing as generic on the ballot, because people are people; they have personalities. And when it comes to like a congressional race that we're going to be seeing in the midterms right now, you're going to have polling about generic people when you realize that politics, especially when it comes to Congress, is just as local as it is national. So you're not voting for a faceless person, you're voting for that person, or you're voting against that person. So keep in mind, when you see polls like what BZ said, and there's a headline for it, you guys seek out media like BZ because you're more discerning than the average voter. Go beyond what that headline says, and I think you'll find more value in doing that research, and you'll feel a lot better about where your vote is going.
I'm trying to parse the time right now, because there was some other stuff that I wanted to go into, and this is going to have to be for another show, not this one. This rape gang inquiry report just came out in the UK. And the UK, in my humble opinion, is predominantly done. Myself and Islam do not get along very well. This is probably not the show to go into that. But those who have seen my show before know that there may be some contretemps between myself and Islam. I will go into another show with another gentleman who is well-versed in that by the name of Jim Horn, who actually lived there in the sandbox for quite a number of years, associated with a lot of Muslims. And this report, which just came out, indicated that 250,000 girls in the UK were raped. And then over the years, literally decades, the Great Britain, not so great, kept this under wraps. And then now they're to the point where social media, because you're now realizing you saw what happened in Belfast. You saw what happened to the kid who said, I can't breathe. And then, anyway, I spoke about that Tuesday. Just briefly, because we are going to have to get into the meat of the matter before or just after the top of the hour break. It's like, did you not, folks, particularly if you live in the UK, did you not see any of this thing coming, yet you were told for such a long time that you were the hater, you were the nutcase? Okay, let me put this up. This is true. Mission Ready Men. Islam is a death cult. That's exactly what I've been saying for a long time, in my humble opinion. Islam is a barbaric death cult, and they are not fit for associating with Western societies, although they certainly know how to utilize them against Western societies as well. But just anything, Gene, that you would care to say with regard to that report and perhaps even the status of the UK currently?
Well, let me just say first and foremost that we won 2 wars to have the right to ignore anything coming out of the UK. So I typically don't follow international news. There was a revolution, and there was a certain war in 1812 that freed us from caring about anything those people want to believe. I have an affinity for British culture. I like Faulty Towers. But that being said, the report is damning. I don't know, because I haven't done as much research as I should have for this, because I'm American. I care about American issues. I care about America first. That being said, I think the UK has become a cautionary tale of what happens when you lose your ever-loving mind to the woke cult. When you start going after your own people for things that they say and think online, you got a problem. When you go after people for pointing out, hey, maybe there's a problem with this certain population, you might be part of a woke cult. When you go around saying, oh, sure, this certain ethnic group can walk around carrying ceremonial knives, but if you do it, it's a crime. You might be part of a woke cult. So while I applaud their position on banning Hassan Piker from going to the UK, this is obviously something that is it's been in the news for so long if you've been paying attention, and it certainly merits further investigation beyond this inquiry. And my problem is that I'm kind of black-pilled because I don't think that you're ever going to get a true valuation of who did what and when and how much, because it's not going to be in the interest of those in power to get that information. But if there is an election, and if this guy that people from England visiting and watching the World Cup calling a wanker, Keir Starmer, actually gets taken out of office, then you might get some real information. Beyond that, I think London and the UK is pretty much doomed. And this is how much I care.
Unfortunately, I have to agree with you. It's a lesson, and we are terrible at lessons, at learning lessons here in the United States. I said, and I've said for years, we have historical Alzheimer's. We can look across the pond, see what's happening over there, and not understand the distinct application to what is occurring here, particularly in Texas, Hamtramck, Dearborn, and tons of points in between. This is not the show for that, but I just, you're here, I'm here. I thought, okay, well, let's get sort of a generic thought with regard to that. For the rest of the time, we got about another 7 minutes or so before the top of the hour break. And as I indicated when I said, hey, Gene, can you come on the show? Let's talk about, Republicans and Democrats. And so let me throw this out there first as we wrap up this first hour. And that's John Thune, FISA Section 702. I have some definite and distinct thoughts about that. Here's John.
Jay Clayton is an eminently qualified individual to become the new director of national intelligence. And so we are looking forward to processing him this week. Chairman Cotton, they will be marking that up or having his confirmation hearing tomorrow, I should say, and hopefully reporting him out later in the week. It would take cooperation among the Democrats in order to get him confirmed this week. But in my view, at least, he has all the qualifications that are necessary. He has the vision, the experience, the judgment, the competence, all the things that you want in that position. And so,
okay, stop. I think I've heard enough of John Thune. Now, John and me are not the bestest of buddies. There are some issues that John and I have. So perhaps let me throw this out for your perusal. Gene Berardelli, who is on the podcast and creator and CEO of Behind Enemy Lines. And you need to see that show Wednesday nights. Let me see if I got this correct. 8 p.m. Eastern?
No, 9
p.m. Eastern. Okay.
I'm a working man. I gotta get home and have dinner at least.
I was like, BZ, wake up. Anyway,
I got it. Don't worry.
Thoughts, Gene, about the state of the Republican Party currently, perhaps including your thoughts about John Thune and what I believe is an incredibly important aspect of the SAVE Act. I've said many things about this over the past months or so, but it's not about me. Tonight, it's about you. So I'd like to find out, Gene, any thoughts or opinions about the Republican Party, where they are right now, anything about the SAVE Act, John Thune. Hit it. Go, mister, go.
So when Donald Trump took the oath of office in January 2025, I said on my show that he has not a 2-year window, but a less than a 1-year window to get what he wants passed through, because the honeymoon would soon end, and people like John Thune would try to put a monkey wrench in the works. Because if it's not coming from the I don't want to say rhino end of the party, but I will say the former establishment end of the party, then you weren't going to get anywhere soon. Section 702 of FISA is expiring. I think it has expired.
Yeah.
People are saying that's going to pose a risk to national security, but I tend to agree with Senator Mike Lee on this in saying that there is no confidence in our government that FISA is going to be used the way it's supposed to. Ask Carter Page about that.
Oh, my.
So when we talk about passing legislation, people got to understand it's normally a horse trading game between Democrats and Republicans. At least that's the way it's been since time immemorial. Less so lately because of the growing divide in the party and between the parties, I should say. Now you're horse trading within the party, with Donald Trump wanting to pass the SAVE Act and Thune saying, I'm not going to, and Trump saying attach it to the FISA renewal. And now Thune is saying that it would be unrealistic, that's his words, to get the SAVE Act passed simply by attaching it to an extension of FISA authorities. And he went off about talking about Jay Clayton in that clip. Meanwhile, Democrats are seeing they don't have to do anything to block any intelligence bill. The Republicans are doing it for them. And the whole issue of objecting to Bill Pulte, concerning who is, I believe, the Federal Housing Finance Agency director and is serving as an acting director of national intelligence. It's a fucking mess. It's a mess of Republicans' own making. And unfortunately, the former establishment still loves to steal defeat from the jaws of victory. There was a mandate. A Republican got a damn near majority, but certainly a plurality of the popular vote in November 2024. And that has since been squandered by people wanting to be the king of their own little anthill and opposing an agenda that not only Republicans want when it comes to the SAVE Act, but Americans want. There are no confidence in institutions. There's no confidence in ballot security, certainly. That's why a supermajority of Americans, not Republicans, want to see voter ID. So to see this happen over and over and over again, you know, first it's Speaker Ryan. Before that, it was Speaker Boehner. Now it had John Thune to the list of feckless, centrist, middle-of-the-road Republicans masking around as conservatives, again, stealing defeat from the jaws of victory.
Again, Gene, you are being so kind. You're being awfully conciliatory. I told people in the promo that Gene has he'll finally come out and express. He'll come out of his shell and tell people what he's really talking about. You are very kind. You're very kind. 2 issues about John Thune. In my opinion, he had numerous opportunities to take this and run with it. And the filibuster is something that already should have been broken by the GOP, because it will be broken by the Democrats, and they will get in power because that's how cyclical politics works. Going back to FISA, when I wanted to make an arrest or I wanted to search something for property, homes, people, etc., I had the government already admitted I had to get a warrant for each situation, that not through exigent circumstances. If that was not applicable, I had to go to the DA and or a judge to go and acquire anything, any number of like a subpoena ducis tecum, a search warrant, an arrest warrant, governor's warrant, you name it. Governor admission in the PC LOB report, if I'm not mistaken, says that FISA 702 is overused in a whole bunch of cases against U.S. citizens with essentially no connection to terror. It's useful in a small number of cases, but all that information, I guess it would be essentially pointless, is already being scraped by the Bumble Hive, the NSA data center in Utah. So FISA 702, not a big fan of that, not a big fan of the Patriot Act. Folks, I'm a little bit late. I'm going to have to go to a break. That is Gene over there. I am BZ. Yay, Gene! I am BZ, and we're going to be back in just a few minutes, and then we are going to get most definitely, into the meat of the matter, shall we say. It's time for a break. Hey, get a drink, relieve some water, whatever you need, do it right now. Go ahead.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Mission log. Intrigue. I mean, let's face it, who's even counting anymore? The Lost Wanderer is officially off course, chasing rogue rocket launches, fringe science, and things that probably violate causality. If it burns fuel, bends time, or makes scientists very uncomfortable, yeah, I'm probably going to talk about it. Every other Sunday on KLRN Radio, The Lost Wanderer, because space doesn't come with a roadmap, and honestly, I wouldn't follow if it did.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism, so common today, is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Hey fellas, are you mission ready? You need to check out Mission Ready Men via Earl Big E Jackson on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and noon Eastern. It's a show that equips you to navigate our society's challenges from a biblical perspective with courage and conviction. Tune into Mission Ready Men as we examine our culture through the prism of biblical truths, teachings, and how to apply them in our daily lives. Prepare to step up, stand out, and step into your role as a man as ordained by God. That's Mission Ready Men, hosted by Earl Jackson on the SHR Media Network. And get mission ready.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
I'm BZ. It's the first hour down. It's gone. Don't even look for it, except if you want to see it in podcast. I always suggest that you go back and look at the shows and enjoy them at your leisure, with perhaps some imbibement ready for you. And it's, after all, it's called the Saloon. And you're in it tonight. Our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat rooms await you at the SHR Media YouTube channel. And you can jump in there with both feet, 2 arms, and even a tail if you are so equipped. Maybe you're a fuzzy. Maybe, I don't know. If you're a leftist, I can't say what's necessarily going on with you. But in any event, welcome back to Gene. And now the show tonight was about, hey, let's turn this off again. I want you to be able to see everything. There we go. Hey, here, have some missiles to the Iranian regime. I do have, I believe, and I looked long and hard all over this to try to see if I can find the full text of that agreement. And so like I said, at the first hour, when I first looked at that, not having the full text of the agreement in front of me, I kind of went 210 over 190. And that probably won't be terribly shocking. And what I said essentially was, after reading what I think is in this, I thought that there were 5 points to be made by the Trump administration. So, number one was ending Iran's nuclear program, not just nuclear weapons, no enrichment. I didn't exactly see that in the MOU, but we will be going point by point over that because, like I said, I found it. And ballistic missiles ended. That's not in the deal. That's what sent me 210 over 190. Iran's support of terrorism isn't necessarily in the deal. They may end up continue being proxies. Permanent opening of the Strait of Hormuz, toll free, and there's some bandying about going on with that. The deal does give Iran and Oman a provision to attempt to toll the straits after 60 days. BZ, that's full of crap. Okay, well, we'll read it and we'll find out. And I will have the input of GENE with me. And Iran would receive some kind of sanction relief set only after those goals were met. So that was my understanding of what was going on. But then I'm going to read what I wrote on social media, and maybe he's a loon. By the way, I like British humor. I love Monty Python, a massive Monty Python fan. But I said essentially, what the hell is going on with President Trump? He's going to allow Iran to have ballistic missiles. It seems to me that it might tend to invalidate most everything that he'd done up to that point. And my first thoughts were, okay, what's going on with him? And is he going native? So, and I also said, he's just about thrown everything positive that he's done since January 20th of 2025. Now, of course, I threw some hyperbole in there because, like I said, 210 over 190 doesn't make the little fissures spark so well. And I thought it was beyond ridiculous. And the Muzzies kind of get everything, including the ability to further focus on their nuclear programs. Because the deal about the Iranians, they're like Muslims. You have to believe what they tell you on their face. And I don't think there's anything that's ever going to stop them from seeking nuclear weapons. And I first thought, okay, it's more capitulation. I'm shaking my head. It doesn't make sense to me. And this was part of the factor of it all. And I said, so let me get this straight. Trump has massive military assets in the region. Yeah. And then he's thinking about, okay, do I send him home? Then Iran ignores everything because they will. That's how Islam operates. Islam is me against my brother, me and my brother against my cousin, me and my brother and my cousin against the tribe, me and my brother and my cousin and the tribe against the outsider, because that's the name of things. So will we have to bring all of our assets back when we had them in the area in the first time? And I went, and this pissed off a few people, but that's me, don't really care. Trump is anthropomorphizing the irrational Muslim animals. And that sadly is, in my opinion, what Bush did. So if I said from the very beginning, and this is one of the major disagreements that I had with President Trump, if Muslims in Iran are breathing, they're winning. So we essentially, in my first blush at this, said we're allowing them to win. They're going to re-bathe the world in blood, and enhance their caliphate takeover. And so doing what BZ calls the logical extension, the potentiality of that is your kids are going to pay the price. I'm not going to pay the price. I'm 76. If I wake up tomorrow, I'm lucky. Woohoo, great day. But your kids, your grandchildren, their children, you've almost guaranteed this, and your kids are going to pay, and then so down the generational line. And so I looked at this and I said, okay, first of all, let's try to forecast ahead a little bit. The Saudis and the UAE and Bahrain, they're not on the same side as Qatar and Pakistan, okay? Because you're talking about Qatar is an Iranian cutout, and Pakistan is a Chinese cutout. And the other three are Sunni Muslims, the greatest number of Muslims in the Islamic world, and Shia is Iran, and that is going to be an existential threat. The only thing those three countries that are involved, okay, so the Saudis, the Emirates, and Israel are pissed. I don't believe they had anything to do with this agreement. I don't believe they had any input. They were not in on the talks, but somehow their ability to respond to aggression, in my opinion, particularly Israel in terms of Lebanon and Hezbollah, they kind of get cut off at the knees. And there's no way, in my opinion, that I was thinking then, that Saudi Arabia is going to go into the Abraham Accords. And so is he frightened of Herbert hoovering some things? Was he? A lot of people have said, people on the left, oh, he got bored with the war and he just wanted out. Did somebody give him an ultimatum? And, you know, Gene, you've seen all the stuff that came from that. And I will be first to admit that a lot of the stuff that I wrote just squirted out that particular day when I saw this. Now, we'll go into, because I think I found 2 copies now of the actual MOU. And it's not nearly as long. Of the copies that I've found, it's not nearly as long as I was thinking it was going to be. That said, and we'll get into that, Gene Berardelli, any of your first thoughts in terms of when you saw or heard about the agreement, or perhaps even read the agreement itself, what were some of your first things that you were envisioning?
So, whenever I look at any document, the first thing I do is I try to understand what this document is. And while we can talk about what's in the MOU, I think we need to let the audience know what is an MOU.
Okay. All right. Good point. Yes.
What is a memorandum of understanding? That's what an MOU is. Well, let me start with what it isn't. It's not a contract. There are no obligations for anybody. What it is a formalized mission statement, for lack of better words. It's an agreement between 2 parties that outlined shared goals, shared intentions, separate intentions, and a framework of how they are going to work together in the future. It's supposed to act as a roadmap. It's not supposed to be the end-all and be-all of everything. There are no I's to dot, no T's to cross. It is broad strokes of what a future fleshed out agreement will look like. Now, let's be clear. As a lawyer, I can tell you international law ain't shit. International law is basically whatever you say it is, because every nation is a sovereign, and sovereigns get to dictate terms by virtue of their own sovereignty.
Okay. Can I ask you to stop right there?
Let's start there. Go ahead.
This is an important point. Would you say it again about international courts? A lot of people don't think this.
Well, because people think that you're part of the United Nations and you're a party to different conventions of the United Nations, that you are bound by that law, bound by that precedent. As seen with charges made against Israel, and Israel basically said, you can international court D's, basically is what they told them.
Yeah.
You have to understand that the weight of international law is based upon the continued good faith of parties agreeing to whatever that international law may be. A lot of it's formalized in the United Nations. A lot of it's formalized in bilateral, trilateral, multilateral agreements by and between the parties. And everything in the United States, at least, has to be approved through the legislature as well. It has to be approved through the Senate. So when you're looking at this MOU and you're realizing it's broad strokes and nothing is fleshed out, and a lot of things are left up to a future agreement that is in the offing, understand that terms may change, things may change going forward, and then also understand that an agreement like this can only be reached through compromise with a willing party. So when BZ talks about we're not getting rid of ballistic missiles, let's understand that the last time a country agreed to get rid of ballistic missiles was during the first Gulf War. And that took months of strikes. That took boots on the ground. That took years of an occupying force. And that took regime change. So while I share the enthusiasm of a lot of people saying, what is this bullshit? I also have to recognize the reality of the origin of this bullshit and where it came from, and getting any agreement that would be palatable would mean probably staying in this much longer, enduring gas prices being this high much longer, and dealing with all this hanging over a tenuous midterm election cycle for Republicans. So I just wanted to make sure that we frame the context of this MOU before we get into the details of it, of which there can be many things discussed and outlined, BZ. And I think it needs that sort of meticulous examination. So if there are things that you are concerned about, let's bring up that section and let's talk about it.
Okay. All righty. What I wanted to do, and I recognize, folks, that we may start to get into the weeds, but as people have heard for years and years, the devil is in the details, and I happen to have the details over here ready to read. There are 14 points.
Yeah, get in, nerds. We're getting wonky.
Yeah, that's true. And so for some people at this point, I'm simply saying, caution, caution, weeds are ahead, and we're going to be parting them as best we can, but you have to know what's in the details, and then recognizing, finally, I'm starting to realize that, okay, maybe it's not all about missiles, but I'm telling you, that sent me over the edge about that. My first reaction was, how can we give Iran ballistic missiles? And then Trump said, oh, because Saudi Arabia has ballistic missiles, and so Iran should be able to have them too. Why, I oughta. To the moon, Alice. And
let's I know that we've since let cooler heads prevail since then, but I just want to ask, how would you enforce Iran not having ballistic missiles?
Well, you'd have to go back, and I know trying to rehash history and some things that have already occurred is mostly futile. It just doesn't pan out well. You know, in 1979, when the Shah went, hey, let's get rid of the Shah, and Carter handled it all so magnificently. I was 29 at the time. I was working in law enforcement, and one of the first things that I was thinking in 1979, especially post Desert One, was, thanks, Jimmy, was, hey, I'm 29. I'm draft worthy. Am I having my fat ass shipped to Iran? It wasn't looking real good. And of course, that was at the time in the 70s, in the late 70s, when we went through, gas problems from OPEC. And I can't tell you how many fights I had to break up in gas lines, odd and even days. Anybody remember that? Yeah, I am that old. However, that being said, we had the opportunity to fix it even before 1979. And a lot of people are saying, oh, the Shah was corrupt. Everything. Well, folks, tell me what isn't corrupt today, besides perhaps myself and Gene. Okay.
Oh, I'm as corrupt as the day is long. I
thank you.
I'll sue you for Kit Kat bar. Are you kidding?
Thank you. Damn it, as well you should. That is not funny. Okay, folks, we're being very serious here.
No, it's not funny. It's damn funny.
It is damn funny. But we had the opportunity to change things way back when, and we didn't. And then every subsequent president, including our blessed Republican presidents, they're so wonderful, put all that shit on, okay, here's the switch. It's on pay attention, and we switched all that shit over to ignore mode for many, many years and many presidents. And so Trump decided that he was going to take this in both little hands and try to do something about it, something that nobody else has had the huevos to do it, which is why, again, I go back to, you have all these assets in the region. And I swear to God, I'm coming to a point, folks. I'm going to try to, if I can remember. We have all this stuff in the region. We'll probably never have it there again, because depending who takes control of the Senate, who takes control of Congress, who takes 28 White House, we'll definitely have those assets in the region. Never again. Only during Reagan did we see a true 500 plus ship blue water Navy and littoral Navy. Probably, maybe never again. So we had the opportunity. My thought was, it's here, they're there, go in and KATN to everything, which is what, in my belief, we should have done. Israel should have done to Gaza, because those problems are not ended. The other thing that's a little irritating, we'll get into all of these, is ascribe any attributions to Israel and Jews and Netanyahu that you will. But if there's one thing that they know how to do, that Israel knows how to do, is take care of themselves. And why wouldn't you want to unleash Mossad, the Israelis, etc., on Lebanon, on Hezbollah, etc.? So I think my point is, in summary, is we had the opportunity to truly kick ass and take names. We did for a while. Then we stopped, and we took a breath, and then we should have continued. Now, what that looks like, I don't have the military acumen and the intelligence access to what they know, to what the Israelis know, to be able to know how you attack that and keep attacking. Because when you stop, time is valuable to the enemy and allows the enemy to breathe.
No, and I certainly get all that, and I'm not holding you to the standard of knowing nuts and bolts, what to have done. I'm just reminded of what the mission was here in what you were saying. And I know that your description of kicking ass, taking names, it's a point well taken. It's certainly a sentiment that people have, but the mission was always Iran cannot have nuclear weapons.
Correct.
Mission accomplished. That's not happening. So, and not only that, in the process of doing that, you decapitated the leader of the caliphate. You decimated their army. You've decimated their navy. You've decimated their economy. According to Marco Rubio in testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee, I believe it was, in an exchange with Cory Booker, he said that they barely have money right now to pay their government employees at this point. You beat them down as best you could, and now you can bring them to the table, and you can attach that leash to them that is needed, that was not there with Barack Obama and his deal. That was not there with Joe Biden and releasing money. And you do so from a position of maximum strength. Now, I understand that people want to make sure that the place is wiped off the face of the earth. I know there are others out there that wanted to liberate those living under this caliphate in Iran. I get all that. I remember President Trump saying that we will help those who help themselves in Iran. Now is the time to move to overthrow your leadership. Didn't really see them do it. If people aren't willing to help themselves, I don't know why Americans should go over there and help them. And so we are left with a situation where we have a significantly weakened Iran, who now is beholden to the schedule and demands of the United States based upon this MOU. And now Donald Trump can spend his entire presidency, and God willing, the next Republican in office can do the same thing, in a method and means that will stop them from ever having a nuclear weapon. And I see Rick Robinson in the chat saying how they can't arm themselves. Iran made out like bandits, people are saying. I get that you think that, but I really think you're looking at a situation where you're not understanding what the mission was, and you're not understanding the state of play in Iran right now. And I'll certainly defer to Marco Rubio and the Trump administration for their evaluation of how they are. And I am willing to see this MOU and look forward to the details being filled in. As BZ said, the devil's in the details, and going forward from there. But keep in mind, for everybody that was looking for, we're going to disarm them, the last country to be disarmed was, like I said, was Iraq in the 90s. Before that, it took 2 nuclear weapons dropped on Japan to disarm them. Are these the lengths you're willing to go to and you're willing to tolerate? And more importantly, are you willing to sacrifice a midterm election and ruin our domestic agenda for the sake of a bloodlust and a blood feud, a vendetta, as my people call it, with Iran?
Okay.
And that's really the question you have to ask yourself here.
Normally, I wouldn't put something up like this, but I'm going to anyway. The Space Jews probe you, they send a bill. That's not funny. Okay. By the way, mission had 4 pillars, not just one. And I will have. Oh shoot! I'm almost at the break. You know what, folks? No break. I'm done with the breaks. We're just going to continue. The only thing I'm going to be doing is saying that this is where you are right now.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
So no more breaks. Let's continue. And the devil is, in fact, in the details. And that's what I'm going to be reading here shortly. And I hope that with the appropriate commentary, because there are 14 points to be made. And this is where I'm sure all the people who are still here, still remaining, their eyes are going to go, they're going to, fold upwards like a Peter Benchley novel of a shark, where it folds upwards and the jaws come out and they can't see before they take their first bite. But again, there are details. Well, first, let me do this. Rick mentioned in chat that, I didn't put it over in the right place. Here's another story that says Iran gains access to $6 billion in frozen funds for U.S. goods. Okay, we'll get to that. And another story that says Iran to get access to $6 billion of frozen funds to buy U.S. goods. And the question is, okay, and will they? I don't know. Before I start this, I will put all the links. They're not going to be in YouTube. All the videos in the articles that I refer to tonight are going to be in the Rumble side of BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, like you've become accustomed to seeing, because anything that I refer to is in show links in the Rumble side of the Saloon. Now, having said that, this is the text. I know the letters are a little small and winky and everything. The only reason they're up there is because they're for me to read, okay? Maybe I can see this and you guys can't, but we're going to go over this, and I'd like to have Gene weigh in on each point. There are 14. And perhaps I should have prefaced this at the beginning of the show like this. I want very much for President Trump to succeed. There have been, I'm not a Trump over everything, Trump über alles, all the time. No, that's not me. There have been a couple, more stupid things that he's really done poorly, but for the most part, the bulk is very positive for the United States. And I want to think positively about these things. And this show tonight with Gene is to go over this information. And if nothing else, perhaps not only by assuaging me, but perhaps assuaging you, that I don't know what movie it was, but that's all is not lost. Because when I first saw that stuff with the missiles, I thought, holy jumping fucking Jesus, what is going on here? So I'm going to read these point by point directly from the text. And then I'd like Gene to weigh in terms of interpretation, because Gene, being a lawyer, knows how to make the adequate interpretations out of all of this, and or what is this stuff really saying?
Or I'm going to fake it till I make it.
Or he'll do that too. So 14 of them. The first one is the United States of America.
Whoa. Before you get to point one.
Whoa.
Who are the parties to this agreement, sir?
It appears, hey, look, it's in point one.
Nope, it comes before point one.
Oh, then I
it
missed
actually says the Islamic Republic, it may not be on your copy, but it is on mine that I'm looking at. The Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States of America have jointly agreed. Who's missing from that MOU thus far?
I don't see Israel.
Exactly right. Who is?
I don't see any other Muslim states in the Middle East.
Exactly. This is only two nations as far as I know. Now, there will be references, and you can say it in the first sentence of point one, to allies, but no allies are party to this agreement. So let's just start from there.
Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No,
but
that's okay, but it's an important point.
Yeah.
Which
So
is
now-
not on my copy of this. Damn it.
That's all right. You're fine. Go ahead and read point one.
So here we go. The United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran and their allies in the current war, not specified, by the way, for allies, by signing this MOU, declare the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon. Israel not happy about that. And undertake from now on not to initiate any war or any military operation against each other, and to refrain from the threat or use of force against each other, and ensuring the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Lebanon. The final deal will confirm the permanent termination of the war on all fronts, including in Lebanon, and other provisions of this paragraph. So, Gene, am I taking out of point one that all of this is fungible and subject to change?
Yes, because it says in the last sentence that the final deal will confirm the permanent termination of the war on all fronts, which means that there will be a timetable developed by and between the parties upon which all hostilities will end. It may be drawn down in phases. It may be drawn down all at once. We don't know. And it also has that ending clause and other provisions of this paragraph, so they can add anything else they like to this that may develop over time. We've already seen that even during these talks, that there were different hostilities going on. Iran blowing up, certain certain equipment of the United States, U.S. retaliating in kind. So just because it says they're going to stop doesn't mean that they've stopped. They're just saying that we intend to stop and that we'll work out the details later. At least that's how I'm reading it.
All right. And I don't customarily respond to the insane in chat, but this is too good to let go. Go the fuck outside says, cope away, boomers. Your time is done. And to what I say to you, go the fuck outside. You shithead will be lucky to make it to half my age.
And
good.
And by the way, don't let the gray hair fool you. I'm Gen X, motherfucker. I'll cut a bitch. I don't. Listen, you can say boomer all you want. Go the fuck outside. Go. Maybe it's you that needs to touch some grass, my man.
Yeah.
But
get out of your mommy's basement.
Always remember, you're the one that came to us. We didn't come to you. In fact, nobody came to you to know what you think, because clearly you don't have the motion of a 70-year-old man on YouTube. So enjoy your night. God bless.
Well, and does anybody think that Go the Fuck Outside would last 12 hours with an 80-year-old President Trump? I don't think so. I think he would outwork and has been outworking that yokel for tons of time. So go back to your basement.
Listen. We gave him his 15 minutes of fame.
We did.
Let's get to point 2 here,
Let's
man.
get to point 2.
And by the way, if you believe that Go the Fuck Outside should get fucked outside, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss the shows.
Hey, thanks.
Show that man what you think about the boomer and his Gen X guest here talking some politics, getting wonky with it.
Show some love, baby. Point 2. The United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran undertake to respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity and to refrain from interfering in each other's internal affairs. Translation needed? Necessary, Gene?
There may be some translation needed here. It's standard language, part of it. But the portion about interfering in each other's internal affairs, I think that was meant for those who are hoping that the United States would become Captain Save-A-Ho for those in Iran that are suffering under the regime. And while I sympathize and empathize with those people, I didn't see anybody rising up to take down the government from the inside. So,
okay,
I feel for you. I love you. I hope you're all okay. Beyond that, don't expect America to come on the white horse to your rescue.
Well, yeah, it's like I've said with all the rest of the nations. Yo-yo. Hey, kids, yo-yo. You're on your own. And so are we, along with everybody else. Number 3, the United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran commit to negotiating and achieving the final deal in a maximum of 60 days, extendable with mutual consent. So, when people hear about, 60 days, what does that mean? It seems pretty clear to me, Gene Berardelli, 60 days. What does point 3 mean to you? Pretty clear.
It reminds me of that old joke about your doctor telling you that you have 30 days left to live, but you can't pay the bill, doctor. That's all right. I'll give you another 30 days. 60 days doesn't mean anything. It just means that they have a target of 60 days, but if they can't get there, they'll give themselves another 60 days or whatever.
Fungible, subject to change. Point 4. Immediately upon the signing of this MOU, the United States of America will begin the removal of its naval blockade and any disturbances or impediments against the Islamic Republic of Iran, and will fully end the naval blockade within 30 days. Now, I'm assuming the blockade of Iran and its ports.
Mm-hmm.
During this period, the traffic of vessels will be in proportion to the numbers of pre-war traffic being restored by the Islamic Republic of Iran. The United States of America further undertakes to remove its forces from the proximity of the Islamic Republic of Iran within 30 days after the final deal. How I'm seeing this is caveat subject to change.
Everything in here is subject to change. 30 days is a target that could probably be amended by any final deal. The United States, above all else, is all about business. It's all about making money. It's all about getting back. This whole MOU is about getting back to regular business. You're seeing gas prices already respond. In my area, they're down
Yes.
$1 from where it was during the height of the conflict. And it's time to get back to business is what is being said here. And the word I love to talk about in this section is remove its forces from the proximity of Iran within 30 days. That is a term that will be left up to interpretation, because one man's proximity is another man's missile range. And as from my understanding, American missiles on ships can travel a real long way.
So number 5, upon the signing of this MOU, Islamic Republic of Iran will make arrangements using its best efforts for the safe passage of commercial vehicles with no charge for 60 days, only from the Persian Gulch.
Yeehaw!
Yeah, Persian Gulf to the
There go, yeah.
And the Saloon was in a gulch at one time, and vice versa. The traffic of commercial vessels will immediately start, and considering the need for removing the technical and military obstacles and determining by the Islamic Republic of Iran will be, no mistake, the demining of the strait, the demining by the Islamic Republic of Iran will be instated within 30 days. The Islamic Republic of Iran will conduct dialogue with the Sultanate of Oman to define the future administration and maritime services in the Strait of Hormuz in discussion with other Persian Gulf or littoral states in line with the applicable international law and the sovereign rights of coastal states of the Strait of Hormuz. Interpretation, GENE Berardelli.
So Iran's got to clear their minds. They got to make sure that the Straits of Hormuz are navigable for commercial traffic. And Iran has to now dialogue with Oman, whether or not they will or not, we'll see, to define how the Strait of Hormuz will be administered. It won't just be Iran administering it. Oman borders it as well. And all these folks have to be in line with international laws. Remember, the Straits of Hormuz are considered navigable waterways, international waters. Whether or not Iran will be administering this unilaterally or bilaterally or multilaterally will surely be discussed in any final deal. But bet your bottom dollar, Americans don't like their boats fucked with. There will be provisions in there to make sure that the unfucking of navigation will occur in the Straits of Hormuz, and that will be what Europe will be most interested in.
Well, and China and Russia, Gazprom to a degree. Let's go to point 6. United States of America undertakes with regional partners to develop a definitive, mutually agreed plan with at least $300 billion for the reconstruction. And see, this is the one of many critical parts. Let me go over it again. Mutually agreed plan with at least $300 billion for the reconstruction and economic development of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The mechanism for the implementation of this plan will be finalized as part of a final deal, again, within 60 days. All required licenses, waivers, and permissions needed for the relevant financial transactions will be granted by the United States of America. First interpretation from me granted by the U.S. that also says ability to be taken away by the U.S. People have said $300 billion. Why are you unleashing $300 billion for these suckers? And that's one of the major issues, one of the major sticking points that I've heard so far.
And this is the problem with the American education system. Reading is fundamental, people.
And so explain that too, please.
Sure. Well, let me start with a question for you, BZ. Where does it say in there that the United States will be providing the $300 billion in funding?
No, it just says at least $300 billion in U.S. dollars.
Right. So the U.S. will undertake with regional partners the development of a plan for the reconstruction of economic development of Iran. Basically, it's the United States broke Iran. They broke a lot of things in it, but the U.S. is not paying for it. They're overseeing how a plan will be created to restore Iran to what it was before. And to do that, because the United States has sanctions against Iran currently and will penalize partners of the U.S. who do business with Iran, the U.S. is saying, we're not going to stop you, or we're not going to sanction you or penalize you, Middle East partner, if you participate in any of this reconstruction and economic development. If you choose to do so, you can do so. Now, Peter Doocy from Fox News asked the president, who was sitting with the head of Egypt, and asked directly, point blank, if the U.S. is committing $300 billion. And he said, the U.S. is not funding anything when it comes to this 14-point plan. $0 the U.S. will be putting into Iran. 0 American dollars. If someone else wants to contribute to it, what right does the U.S. have to say, no, you can't give money to Iran? How dare you? It would be like, and he said this in front of the head of Egypt, it would be like me saying, no, don't invest in Egypt. What does that actually do? It doesn't do anything. It's rhetoric. It's empty. It's nonsense. So let this be a lesson for those of you out there, and including senators and people in the media. Learn how to fucking read.
Well, what it's not saying, being a student of history, is we, the U.S., are not going to 1948 Marshall Plan the Republic of Iran.
Well, no, Donald Trump has learned the lessons of the past about regime change and about where our blood and treasure goes. He doesn't want to get caught in another Iraq quagmire. He doesn't want to be governing another nation. He doesn't want to be in Afghanistan for years. He's the president that removes troops from occupations, not creates new ones. And while he laid out a clear, bright line that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons, and that was his primary goal here, he is also saying, I'm not going to deal with the theory of you break it, you bought it. Everyone else in the region who has a stake in this, I'm not going to stop you from doing it.
Okay, so let's go to point 7.
Sure.
The United States of America undertakes to terminate all types of sanctions against the Islamic Republic of Iran, including the United Nations Security Council resolutions, i.e., Board of Governors resolutions, and all unilateral U.S. sanctions, primary and secondary, in an agreed-upon schedule as part of the final deal. The Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States of America acknowledge the critical importance of the sanctions termination issue above mentioned and express their intentions to immediately address these issues in the negotiations in order to achieve mutual agreement on them. Interpretation.
Have you ever seen so many words used to say nothing? This is statecraft speech. This is political speech. This is open-ended language. The key phrase here appears at the end of the first sentence. In an agreed-upon schedule as part of the final deal. There are going to be hoops that Iran has to jump through in order to become sanction-free. And those hoops will be determined in the final deal. And sure, we can put in some feel-good language about recognizing how important it is that this sanction termination issue be addressed, and that our intention is to immediately address this in negotiations. Sure, no problem. We'll address it as we see fit. Otherwise, there's going to be no deal, and then you end up losing nothing, U.S. You still have the same sanctions, but you have a much more weakened, a significantly more weakened Iran to combat those sanctions. So, again, reading is fundamental. Look at these words. Look at the languages here. Look at the equivocation language in an agreed upon schedule. How long do you think that schedule is going to be? 30 days, 60 days? Or is it going to be 10 years? I'll leave that for you to decide based upon what you think about the Trump administration.
Okay, point 8. The Islamic Republic of Iran reaffirms that it shall not procure or develop nuclear weapons. That's pretty succinct. United States of America and Islamic Republic of Iran have agreed to resolve the disposition of stockpile enriched material pursuant to a mechanism that will be mutually agreed upon in accordance with the schedule mentioned in paragraph 7.
Well, now hold on a second here. I want you to compare language now.
Okay.
You made a very good point, BZ. The first sentence of paragraph 8. Short, sweet, to the point, right? No equivocation. No player to be named later. No negotiation to be made later. You don't procure or develop nuclear weapons. Point blank, period. No need for interpretation. Then you look at the next sentence. They've agreed to resolve the disposition of stockpiled enriched material in a schedule to be mutually agreed upon, and the methodology to be, down blending on site, and all the other wherefores and therefores. Totally different language from paragraph 7 about removing sanctions. Yeah, we'll get to it. But you will not have a nuclear weapon. Shall not. The difference between using shall not or may not in legislative writing, for example, is a big deal.
Huge.
When you say shall not, there's no wiggle room.
Yeah, that's a proscription, as in no bueno, shall not occur, will not occur.
Yep. You can keep on going, but I just wanted to point that out because I think this is important.
7, nebulosity. 8, not nearly as much. So it goes on to say, the schedule mentioned in paragraph 7 with the minimum methodology to be down blending on site under the supervision of the IAEA. The two parties also agreed to discuss the issue of enrichment and other mutually agreed matters related to the Islamic Republic of Iran's nuclear needs based on a satisfactory framework being agreed upon in the final deal.
Now, let's be clear. When we're talking about enrichment of nuclear materials like uranium or whatever it may be, the enrichment level for nuclear energy is significantly lower than the enrichment level required for a nuclear weapon. The whole reason why people were saying that Iran wasn't developing a nuclear weapon is because they saw highly enriched materials in the presence of certain bases where development of nuclear weapons could be happening. If you have nothing to hide, then a nuclear Iran can certainly have low enriched nuclear materials to power their nation, just like every other nuclear power does.
Well, the other thing, because I just thought about it, is if you remember, go back to 2010, and Stuxnet was a worm that got into Iran and screwed with their centrifuge operation. So if it happened once, ... Let me continue with the other part here. The United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran acknowledge the critical importance of the nuclear issues above mentioned and express their intention to immediately address these issues in the negotiations in order to achieve mutual agreement on them. Pretty clear. Number 9. Pending the final deal, the United States of America and Islamic Republic of Iran agree to maintain the status quo. The Islamic Republic of Iran will maintain the current status quo of its nuclear program, and the United States of America will not impose any new sanctions and will not deploy additional forces in the region.
And guess what happens to Iran if they don't maintain the status quo?
And that's the biggest question.
You get mollywopped again. Because if you don't maintain the status quo, all bets are off. That's really what happens here. This is, now let's be clear. I know people out there are so upset about giving Iran the benefit of the doubt. After all, they have a track record of many generations of lying to America, to Europe, to even to their own allies.
Takia.
Yeah, Takia is a real thing. I get that. Certainly get that. That being said, understand that Diplomacy is best served when you have a carrot and a stick. The carrot is, oh, you want, nuclear, you want to be a nuclear power and have energy and, low cost energy and whatever. Sure. If you develop a weapon, we're going to fucking spank you. Now, up until President Trump, every American president from Reagan on down has always said, if you do this, we're going to spank you. Do you remember Joe Biden and Kamala Harris saying, what is your message to Iran? Don't. And then they did nothing.
Ooh, that's scary. Ooh, scary.
Exactly. And Donald Trump is the first American president to put boot to ass with Iran. If he would do it once, he has no qualms to do it again. Iran has to realize, and I think people looking at this deal have to realize as well, the rules of engagement with Iran have changed. It is not the same America that was, for lack of a better word, flaccid for over 40 years, nearly 50 years.
Ooh, bad brainworm. Bad visual.
This is Donald Trump saying, I'll give you a chance, but I'll leave you for dead if you don't do it.
Okay, the rest of the points, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, are relatively smaller. Number 9. Pending the final deal, the United States of America and Islamic Republic of Iran agree to maintain the status quo.
Yep, we did that when we were on to 10.
We did. Okay, number 10. The United States of America undertakes immediately, upon the signing of MOU until the termination of sanctions, U.S. Department of Treasury will issue waivers for the export of Iranian crude oil, petroleum products, and derivatives, and all associated services, including banking transactions, insurances, transportation, etc. Interpretation, holding something over their head.
Well, you will be allowed to pump out your oil, but it's under the supervision of the United States. We will issue the waivers and allow this to happen. And this is one point in the total document. If they screw up any of the other points, this obviously will be rescinded.
Okay, point 11. The United States of America undertakes to make fully available for use the frozen or restricted funds and assets of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Upon the implementation of this MOU, the United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran will mutually agree on the procedures related to the release of these funds during negotiations. Such funds, whether retained in the original account or transferred, shall be made fully usable for payment to any ultimate beneficiary designated by the Central Bank of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The United States of America undertakes to issue all necessary licenses and authorizations accordingly.
Now, I understand that people have big problems with this.
Big problems with that, yes.
But I don't think that people understand the mechanisms that is being set up here. The money being referenced here is not American money. These are funds that were seized from Iran by the United States and being held in escrow by the United States, or they may be funds that have been previously provided to Iran for purpose, part of the Obama deal, whatever it may be. Point is, it's Iran's money, whether they earned it through oil revenue or whatever. This does not say anywhere in it that the U.S. will be giving this money to Iran, does it?
It does not.
What does that mean then? Who's going to be holding the money? Actually, you know what? It doesn't matter who's going to be holding the money because the United States has to sign off on releasing the money, whether it's being going to be held by Qatar, whether it was before, or Oman, or whatever it may be. Iran is going to have access to this money, but it's going to be under the supervision of the United States. So what I envision here, and I could be totally wrong here, is that Iran will say, we need $1 billion, let's use nice round numbers, to import in food for our people. Because our own infrastructure, we don't have our own farms going, we don't have our own food available. We need to spend $1 million on food. So the U.S. will say to them, okay, Central Bank of Islamic Republic of Iran, Where you buying the food from? And let's say they're buying the food from Germany. So the U.S. will say, cool, okay, Germany, I'm releasing $1 billion of this money that we've held for Iran, whether it's us or somebody else, and I'm releasing it from wherever it's being held directly to you so you can send that food to Iran. Germany says, thank you very much for the money and guaranteeing the deal and issuing all the necessary licenses and authorizations to do this, and the food gets shipped to Iran.
Okay, 3 more. Number 12. I'm sorry, did you have something further?
No. I just wanted to see your reaction, but we're basically there, so we can address it later. That's fine.
Okay. And then I have one overarching question before we say
Sure.
TTA fan. Number 12, the United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran agreed that an executive mechanism will be established to monitor the successful implementation of this MOU and the future compliance of the final deal. So they're going to set something up. That seems
people are going to be watching.
Pretty clear.
And I'm sure those people will be making money as well, too.
And number 13, after signing this MOU and subject to the beginning of the implementation of paragraphs 1, 4, 5, 10, and 11 of the MOU, and the continuing implementation of these measures, the United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran will start negotiations regarding the final deal exclusively on the other paragraphs. Screaming to me, interim.
Absolutely. And that's what an MOU is. It's the broad strokes, it's the mission statement, it's the wish board for any liberal out there. It's their dream vision board of what they want a deal to be.
And then number 14, very, very simple. The final deal will be endorsed by a binding UNSC resolution.
Which would be the UN Security Council.
Okay. So, in general, because we've gone over our 2 hours a little bit, so I'm going to wrap things up. In general, the summary of this, GENE Berardelli, what are you taking out of this now?
U.S. is in the driver's seat. Iran will be under the thumb of the United States for years to come, financially, militarily. They won't be able to breathe without the U.S. checking the oxygen in the room. I think that this is the start of something good. The devil's always in the details. But for those people out there screaming that this is a capitulation, that this is surrender, that Iran has somehow won, in the words of my father, Robert Berardelli, get the fuck out of here. It's copium. It's people, it's conservatives I'm seeing lining up with Adam Schiff to have that sentiment in that narrative. It's copium for those out there who are saying that Donald Trump failed at something, when in essence, what's been achieved here, and because it's international and the United States population is famously ignorant for international issues, myself included. I had to do a lot of prep work to understand and read all this. For those people out there, you're just showing your own ignorance to international relations. And I think maybe you need to sit this out and see where things go from here. Because the reactionary nature of the internet and the reactionary nature of the Trump-addled population that want to see him fail have come together and coalesced to make themselves into buffoons, something I know a little bit about.
Yes, considering the nature of your show. So the biggest concern with me would be, okay, I've seen it, I've read it, I've seen all 14 points over here. We have delineated and weighed in on all those points in the show. And then ... If they don't comply, then because Iran and Muslims being, they're people, they have eyes, they have ears, they can see what's going on. If all of our vessels and material and infrastructure toddle away one day, because we have a great amount of military in the region, in the area. Another BZ if-then equation. If they all go away, then Iran commits a violation, but they wait. What's the potentiality for some kind of how do we reconcile that?
I think this is the classic, we're going to cross that bridge when we come to it, because the response can only be measured by the proportionality of what is presented by Iran. If they go out and they still are bombing different locales in the area where there are U.S. personnel, there'll be a penalty for that, and that may be a strike against them. I think the better question is, what will Israel do with this?
Oh, yeah.
That's really the question that is the wild card here. Because as we pointed out, Israel's not a party to this MOU.
No.
They may or may not be a party to the final deal, or they may just say, fuck off, we're going to do what we want, and you need to make your own deal with us. I don't know at this point what they're going to do. I think that President Trump will do his best to have Israel be a party to agreements like this. But at the end of the day, who knows? Their politics dictates what they do. Our politics dictates what we do. So that's really the question I think people should be asking here.
So we could say these 14 points have provided the structure of something. We handed it over, and now we're saying essentially, okay, Iran, ball's in your court.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Then the final question for tonight is, between now and November, so many things can occur. It's not even July yet. It's not even the end of June. And so the potential for any number of offshoots from all this crap there could be so many paths as to be pretty much incalculable. So between now and November, how will this potential? And I know I'm asking you to, like, I'm Karnak. What are some of the things that could occur? And I'm thinking specifically about the midterms.
Well, let me get my thinking hat on. Give me 1 second here.
All righty. I hope it's good. I hope it's colorful. I hope it has a lot of contrast.
Well, when you have a challenge like Buffoon of the Week, you gotta have one of these, right?
That's perfect.
So
Karnak never had a hat like that.
There you go. So short answer, no one pays attention to politics until after Labor Day. People will be paying attention to gas prices through Labor Day. If prices at the pump start coming down, political tensions will start coming down as well. And then when we start looking towards the midterms, I'm going to take this stupid thing off now. Goddamn. When we start looking towards the midterms, it becomes a math problem. How many seats do you have to win? Where are those seats? And is it winnable? That's why that Calais decision was so important out of the Supreme Court. That's why all the gerrymandering is important right now, all the partisan gerrymandering that has been allowed thanks to the successive Supreme Court cases. And I think that's why Donald Trump is making it a priority to get Iran in the rearview mirror. The message from him is going to be mission accomplished. We stopped the nuclear Iran. We brought down gas prices. It was a small price to pay to make sure that we're safe. And now let's get back to our domestic policy, and let's not let crazy Democrats ruin the nation. And that's really what it comes down to.
Okay, folks, it is here, Pacific, it's 10:10, which means that in Central, it's midnight 10, which means that where you are, it's 1 a.m. 10.
Do you know where your children are? Who remembers that?
I do, because I got asked. When the lights go off, your young ass better be home, kid.
Absolutely. Listen, before we wrap things up, folks, if you want a free copy of my book, let me know through BZ. You can contact him on X. You can also go to book.buffoonoftheweek.com. I believe that there is a contact us form there that you can reach out to. Let me just make sure it's there and still operating. If you get a hold of me either through BZ or through the book website, I will make sure that you get a free e-copy of the book. And if you want to actually support me with the book, it's only 99 cents on Amazon. So you can look for Gene Berardelli. You can look up there. If you want to pay 99 cents, great. If you don't want to, I'll send you a free version. If you want a signed copy, let a brother know. I'd be happy to do that as well, especially for this audience that hung out for 2 hours of listening to me ramble on incessantly and pretending to know things.
And minutia, we dried up your brain. I know it's knurled and furled. Hey, folks, if that isn't a deal of the century, I don't know what is. So, Gene?
Book.beforetheweek.com. Go to the bottom of the page. There's a contact form. Let a brother know.
Beautiful. So before we go, Gene, thanks so kindly for being here, because it's pushing 01:15 where you are. And also, I would be a terrible host if I didn't say something similar to, hey, Gene Berardelli, where can you be found? How about your show? How about your book? We talked about your book. How about your show? Any social media or anything like that you want to make reference to right now, please?
Well, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. Folks, you can find me on YouTube at Buffoon of the Week is the name of the channel. Subscribe over there. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss shows. We do live streams Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube, on Rumble, same channel name, Buffoon of the Week, or on X. Go to KLRN Radio to listen to it on X if that you are so inclined. And like I said, audience participation is number one for me. Happy to have you come on board. Come hang out. Let's bullshit. Let's drink a little bit. Let's make fun of some buffoons as well.
That's an idea whose time has come, and it must be right now. Yeah, brother.
All right. I'm ready to shut this sucker down, whatever you are, man.
Thank you ever so kindly, Gene. Appreciate it. And of course, I always ask, may I have you back sometime? Yes? No?
Maybe. I don't know. I thought that was the outro. Yeah.
No, I have my own
outro. I was doing my smile face holding for the outro. Hang on. Why, yes. I would love to come back sometime and talk to your wonderful audience, and I guess you too.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. I'm secondary. The audience is primary. Excellent. So, Gene Berardelli, thank you for being here. This is Gene saying TTFN, and this is me saying, hey, I think I'm going to have to wrap up the show. Do you guys remember how we do that here? I do. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media channel, the SHR Media YouTube channel, on X, on Twitch, on KLRN. I'm sorry, the munificently grandiose KLRN, and all sorts of tons of various bulbous podcast locales. Promotional consideration is also by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and by Shure and Electro Voice microphones. I use them. Why shouldn't you? And also by the Arrakis company that make my mixer, as well as Pratt and Whitney engines, dependable engines, manufacturing those that yield thrust you can trust. And also, tiaras are by My Little Pony. It doesn't really say anything on the top of my hat. All it does is cover my scabby pate, just to be honest. And thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I shall be consorting in less than 10 minutos. That's Spanish for mittens. Minutes. Mittens. I have mittens. And I want to thank each and every one of you. Thanks to Gene Berardelli for being here tonight. Have a great weekend. God bless everybody. Be safe. Yeah? Yeah.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
By the way, don't go away just yet, because before the end of broadcast signal comes on, I have something that I want to play for you, and it is about this coming Sunday. Let's continue.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Jim Bob.
Good night and good luck.
And so I said, what is Sunday? This is Sunday. Great video by PragerU.
So close. Don't give up, sweetie.
An incredible battle in the elite women's race. Today will be enough to hold on for a world championship.
Thank you, Dad.
We still have work to do.
Okay, team, we have an ambitious day. Let's get to work.
Thank you, Dad.
You little brat. Hey!
Never hit a girl.
Why won't you give me your number?
Leave me alone.
Leave her alone, buddy. Will you marry me?
Yes, of course.
Prayers up.
We're reminded that every good gift comes from you. Amen.
Prayers up! Prayers
The electric atmosphere. He's a leader on this team, and his faith is really inspiring the whole team.
I think you mean the whole stadium.
Thank you, Dad.
Dad, I'm an airplane.
Thank you, Dad.
My dad passed away in 2009 at the age of 88. And just remember that fathers, like males, they're not toxic. Masculinity is mandatory. Good night, folks.